So, welcome, wise women, to 6 money rituals and practices to build wealth for your future with Susan Shloss, certified money coach. And before I introduce Susan and before we light our candles, I just want to appreciate you all for being here, for taking the time to be here. I know it is a busy time. You are busy women who are up to amazing things in the world. And so I just want to appreciate you. We want to appreciate you for being the kind of woman who is dedicated to really making a shift in your money practices and your ability to generate money and make wise decisions with your money. Because Susan and I both really hold that when we, women light leaders, transform our relationship with money, we are then free or freer to help create a more equitable world and to live as vessels of philanthropy in the world. So just by being here together today, we are creating new supportive narratives around having money and wielding money as women healers. So very briefly, I'm Jessica Hadari. I'm the organizer of the Feminine Frequency Global Festival and the Women Light Leaders Network, which has been a sanctuary of networking and events and community for nearly 20 years. And I'm your host for this event and our ongoing Money Elevation series. And it is my pleasure to light candles with you and warmly welcome Susan. So let's just take a moment first to drop in. Since we can't reach out and hold hands with one another, we'll light our candles together and shine our lights together from all over the world. Some of you were chiming in earlier, chiming in from all different time zones, Europe, Canada, the States, and we warmly welcome you. So we're just going to take this moment to hold our candles as a symbol of stepping into this circle together as women have since ancient times in a container of receiving wisdom. And we're just going to take a moment to take a breath together in and out. Just want to warmly welcome all of you. Welcome, Susan. And it is my pleasure to introduce Susan to all of you. So I'm going to read the kind of professional introduction first, and then I'm going to give my warm friendship welcome to Susan. So Susan Shloss, many of you know, is a certified money coach. She supports women to grow women and couples to grow their financial literacy, their confidence, and fulfillment at the intersection of psychology, spirituality, and culture. Susan offers powerful tools that create shifts in a supportive environment of compassion and respect, and she aspires to facilitate transformation for all who struggle with money. My warm introduction to Susan. Susan is a dear friend. I happen to be so blessed to live near her. So Susan and I will often mastermind, will sistermind together as we take walks in nature nearby in beautiful nature areas. I have always been in awe of her commitment to social justice and how that interplays with money and with each of us and our money story. And today she's actually going to be going into some decolonization of money, decolonization of wealth. And I so appreciate Susan for just being such a stand for these conversations and for this knowledge. Susan and I also had the pleasure of going to Costa Rica and being at a women's yoga retreat together. So we've had many adventures, and I've just been able to be with her in so many different places and situations and communities. And she always shows up with such grounded presence, with such authenticity, with such gentle, what is the word? It's like you just have this gentle essence where I always feel heard and I always feel seen by you, Susan. So I know that you will have the same experience with Susan should you ever be blessed to be in presence with her in community or one-on-one, virtually or in person. She is just such a wonderful woman. If you don't already know her, I'm so glad you get to meet her today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Susan for the rest of our time together. Susan, thank you for being here today. Beautiful. We just want to make sure you unmute yourself. She's getting it. Oh, I have to. Oh, because I didn't make you a co-host. Oops. There we go. Thanks, Susan.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica, for that beautiful, generous introduction. Thank you so much. I love you. So welcome, everyone. And I am so honored that you're here and so grateful to be able to share some of the wisdom that I've acquired and accumulated over the years. I just feel a lot of grace around this auspicious encounter that we're having this morning or evening, wherever you are. So I would like to start with a story. My friends, Sam and Suzanne, became very successful opening addiction recovery centers all over California. And at a certain point, they got together. They were very united, a married couple. They got together and asked the question, how much is enough? And they decided on how much was going to be enough for them to live the abundant life they wanted to beyond their working years. And that brings in this concept of sufficiency. That's really important as we're talking about decolonizing wealth. Lynn Twist, who wrote The Soul of Money, is really big on that concept and exploring sufficiency. It's such a good question to ask. So it came time for them to retire a couple years ago, and they started selling off their centers. And they had one that had 2 Native American women working at it who were incredible, brilliant women. And they decided to give that center to those 2 women. They just charged enough to cover their costs in the transaction and gave the center to those women. And I just was so touched by that story. It's a beautiful example of reparations and decolonizing wealth. So the prosperity path is more than a personal journey. When we're in survival, it's really important to us to, make sure we have enough. And even when if you're struggling with money, you can still be expanding your vision and awareness to include the giving aspect, the sharing aspect, the we aspect of money. Because when one person prospers, we all prosper. And no one really prospers until we all prosper. And when you change your money story, you're changing culture, you're healing collective trauma, and you have the opportunity to be a change agent for a more equitable world. This word wealth can be triggering for people. So I wanted to take a moment to explore it. And I invite you to settle into your chair and relax. Close your eyes if you'd like. And bring this word wealth into your awareness. It might show up as an image or sensation in your body or an energy. Notice what comes up for you when you invite wealth into your awareness, into your space. And how close do you want to be to it? Are there any emotions that come up? Maybe it's a mixed experience for you. And when you feel complete with that exploration, you can take a deep breath in and let it go with a sigh. And then if you'd like to share any insight that you got in the chat, please do that now. And while you're doing that, I want to check the text here, the chat. What is enough is a great reframe. Yes. A new culture of money and gifting. Thank you for being a leader of change. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Susan. Greater responsibility. Yes. Both Tessa and Francesca brought that word into it, and I totally relate to that. Not related to money, a feeling of holding wealth from Susan Friedman. Yeah, wealth can be much more than about money, right? A beautiful, lush garden that is full of sunlight and nourishes me. Exactly. For me, wealth brings up the idea of wealth for a select few, whereas abundance feels like it's something available to all. Yeah. Just being in a favorite place of mine, relaxing by the lake. Wonderful. For Michelle, wealth is being conscientious and meticulous in all actions and thoughts. I love it. From Lila, two contrasting impressions: self-usurpation and spiritual interpersonal sovereignty. Yes, we can definitely have contrasting feelings around wealth. Thank you, everyone, so much. I'm going to move on here and we can take a look at the chat for those I didn't get to read yet. Excuse me. My deepest intention for spiritual women leaders who join my community is that you joyfully engage with your money and find ease and prosperity while living in your purpose. And I want to echo what Jessica said. I'm honored that you're taking this time to be with me this morning. And I just acknowledge and appreciate you for giving this time to yourself as well. And I thank you so much for your trust. So today I'm going to give you way more than 6 practices. So have your journal ready and let's get started. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's move some things out of the way here. So these are the 6 areas that I'm going to be diving into with you that are part of the framework that I work with my clients. Healing the past. We go deep into your history to unearth some of the patterns and the origins of the patterns. Divine intervention, bringing our divine guidance into our money relationship. The energies of money, the money archetypes. Mindful tracking, the practical side of things, and paying attention on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis even. Brain hacks, which has to do with changing our thoughts and our nervous system. And then I'll dive into some wealth strategies. And part of that is decolonizing our wealth. So let's dive into the healing part of this conversation. We're excavating unconscious patterns, and just having awareness at a deeper level starts to change, starts to create transformation, understanding our history and our parents' patterns and our unconscious beliefs about money. And these patterns are hardwired. So bringing the brain and understanding that when there is an old impression, that when there's something similar that comes up, it has to get processed through that reptilian brain, which is our reactive primitive brain. And if we haven't integrated it, then we're going to just act impulsively, act reactively through the emotions and memories that come up. If we're able to incorporate our thinking brain, then we're going to make better choices. And we got all these chemicals running here. So it's addictive, that's really important to understand. that when money is triggering or challenging, we're dealing with a very physical thing. So we don't ask what's wrong with me or what happened to me. I mean, what's wrong with me or what's wrong with you? We ask what happened to you. And I recently read this wonderful book that explains how our childhood experiences, traumas, and challenges get hardwired and what it takes to unravel that. And this book by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry is a really beautiful read that includes the science and the conversations between Oprah and Dr. Bruce. So I'm going to share a story with you. My friend Danny grew up in a household where there was fighting about money every day. Her parents had really different relationships with money. Her mom expected her dad to provide for her in a very opulent way, and he didn't care that much about having wealth, so it was such a point of contention that my friend just withdrew from money completely. She just had a very adverse reaction to saving. And we need to move all this through the body. And what she did impulsively, spontaneously, was start rolling on the floor, like really moving that energy when we were in her session. And she was able to let go of that old imprint and open up to money in a new way. And she and her husband also had very different relationships with money, and her husband was kind of secretly saving because she was so triggered by it. So now they're very much united around their finances. So divine intervention, cultivating spiritual qualities, grace, humility, surrender, forgiveness, service, gratitude, inquiry, ritual, self-love, non-doership. And I'm curious of those, and I'm going to give you a free gift where if you haven't gotten this from me yet, 10 sacred practices to amplify your prosperity frequency gives you journal prompts and meditations to really connect with these different divine qualities. And I bring a spiritual quality as a theme into my membership every month that really helps to support the transformation process and opening to greater abundance. So I'm curious of these, as you look at them, is there one that calls to you to explore it more deeply? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Non-doership, ritual, nice, self-love. Yeah, I'm going to talk about non-doership because it's the more advanced practice, I would say. And it has to do with getting out of the way of the divine flow and having the experience that we are not the doer, that the divine mother, or however you want to define it, is acting through us. Now, if you can close your eyes for a second and feel what that might feel like to not be the doer, to let go of feeling so responsible, and knowing that the divine energy is acting through you, there's a certain relief, I think, for me, to tune into that. And you can open your eyes. So, of course, we want to combine that with also taking aligned action. So if the ego latches on to not having to do anything, that's a different story, right? That's why it's an advanced practice. It's something that we integrate with the rest of our lives. So I encourage you, whichever one called to you, if you want to get the practices, I'm going to pop that link in the chat here. You can work with the practices in there that I am offering you as a gift. So we're going to move into the 8 money types, and there are a lot of people here who know me and know my work. And so you can just feel into what's alive for you today. And the thing about archetypes is that they can define these energies that are alive in us at any given time. They're not who we are. They're not our personality. They can shift depending on our life circumstances. So see if you can be aware of how these land in your body when we're going through them. The innocent is the money type that has her head in the sand. It's really a young part of us that has a lot of anxiety when it comes to relating to money and engaging with money and go into vagueness. It's really common. The innocent would like to have someone else take care of the money, would like to have the money be provided by somebody else. And I've certainly had this strongly in my life. It's really hard to confront. So this could get in the way of you raising your rates, for example, just having that. Has anybody experienced that when you think about raising your rates, just have it kind of freezing up around it? That's the innocent. Yeah. There's that feeling of powerlessness, and there may be repressed feelings and beliefs. So there's kind of that shutdown, there's a veil. And then we have the victim, and this can be a hard one to look at because it's so painful. I really think that's the bottom line of why it's hard to look at our victim side. But if you can feel into it and maybe remember a time when you felt like there was something outside of you preventing you from having the abundance that you wanted. That's the victim, is pointing the finger outside of us. And we do have circumstances, there are cultural issues and, racism and oppression for sure. And the pandemic, affected a lot of people. So there's nothing wrong with having the victim come up. It's just that we want to heal through that so we can come back to feeling empowered and looking at how we can take care of ourselves and what actions we can take. And so what the victim needs is to practice forgiveness and gratitude. And I love to use the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So if there's anything in your life right now that you're holding a bit of resentment toward and you want to release that, you can call it in this moment and just say this prayer to yourself. In fact, let's say it out loud right now together. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And let's say it one more time for ourselves. And say your name, Susan. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. The martyr, you might guess, is the one who is self-sacrificing and taking care of others before our own needs. This is the fine line between generosity and overgiving or having some ulterior motives to our giving. So underneath the martyr is perfectionism, long suffering, wanting to be in control. There's a client I'm working with right now who has a habit of taking care of his partners financially at his own expense. And there's an element of control from his history of his mother withholding love and being much more concerned about money. So, there's this imprint. If I take care of people financially, I'll be loved. And then sometimes there's social pressure. Where I live, it's pretty expensive, and parents sometimes feel they have to provide certain things for their children to feel like they're being treated like other kids. So there can be pressure. Another thing that comes up a lot around this is grandparents. Because at certain stages of our life, we may be able to be really generous, but at a certain point, if you're looking at retirement, that is going to be shifting. And so I've worked with people who've had to start saying no and stop, just taking their kids out every single time they went out, including my parents, actually. At some point, we may end up taking care of our parents. So it's tricky with family things. It's not black and white at all. And we each have to soul search to find where our boundaries are. That's what the martyr needs. The martyr needs to know her boundaries, and it's not always cut and dry. So it's part of that inquiry practice. The Fool. The Fool is the light part of us when it comes to money, not afraid of risk. And we want to have some fool. When it comes to spending, the fool isn't going to look at how much do I have and what was my spending plan. That's not going to be on the fool's agenda. So the fool needs to look at what's the cost been of my impulsiveness or overly generous patterns. And also putting in some practices of running things by someone else before making financial decisions, so that we're not making decisions by ourselves. And some vulnerability, you get to know, you may already know what your vulnerabilities are around spending. The other area is investing. I was going to talk about this later, but I think it's really appropriate for this fool archetype to talk about risky investing. There are promises out there that, oh, this is going to shoot up. You're going to make millions. There are some investment instruments that underneath them are actually Ponzi schemes where they depend on people putting more money in to give other people the promised income that they're getting. And if something happens, the whole thing's dead and everyone loses their money. There was a big one of those a couple years ago here in Marin. And I wanted to mention cryptocurrency because, it's had times when people have made so much money on crypto, right? I have a friend who's very savvy with investing. He does a lot of research, and he was invested in cryptocurrency for years. He made a lot of money and then it came back down. And he got out of it recently because he realized that he didn't want to risk the rest of that money. So that's really the question, like, can you afford to risk this money? So it's not a good or bad thing. Generally, though, when it comes to risky investments, I recommend staying within 10% of your money. to devote to, it used to be penny stocks. It used to be these companies that looked so promising, or startups. And the latest one is really the cryptocurrency. It's just such a big unknown still. The creator artist. I think many of you are strong in this money type. I know I am. This is the highly artistic or spiritual person who is very conflicted when it comes to money, a love-hate relationship, non-materialistic. What's much more important than money for the creator artist is authenticity, being aligned with our values and our purpose. So those pieces are very important. And the creator artist needs to learn that we can be aligned with our purpose and our values, and we can be warriors, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We can be disciplined and have a relationship with money and be aligned with our values. So somehow bringing all that together. And I want to share a story. One of my clients, I'll call her Denise, came into a big inheritance at a very young age, in her 20s. And it came with the loss of her father, who she was very close to. So the association that she had with that money was very painful. And so she recently came to this awareness that she needed to heal that. There was just a lot of guilt as well, because she is a creator artist, strongly principled and aware of other people's misfortunes, wanting to have equity in the world, woman of color, so very aware as well of that kind of inequity. So she has been practicing gratitude and the understanding that it's and letting in her abundance, letting in her availability of choice, and alongside her values, and sorting it all out so that she can be at peace with the money that she has and know that she's contributing in ways that feel aligned to her. Oh, it's really beautiful. So this piece of detachment is important with the creator artist. When we have, and that was one example of detaching for reasons of guilt or, having a negative association with money. Other negative associations that people can have can come from religious upbringings, where there's this value of being poor. Well, that was an attempt on the part of the church, and continues probably in many places, to have power. So having to cleanse that piece. And there was recently a beautiful summit about reclaiming the divine feminine in Christianity, which I really appreciated. I'm Jewish, and so I'm connected to some of the Jewish Christian leaders like Mary Magdalene in my heart. So we want to be able to connect with money in a beautiful way. The tyrant is very fearful, hanging on. You could kind of think of it similar to a hoarding pattern that people have with possessions, where there's just a lot of fear around not having enough. And there's also a critical aspect to the tyrant. A lot of women have a self-tyrant, where I'm not doing enough, I don't have enough. That's the tyrant speaking. So what the tyrant needs is to bring in the magician, bring in a sense of faith and trust to know that we're taken care of. That we have enough, that we do enough. And here is our beautiful warrior. I think I want to pause for a second here because it's a lot of material. How's everybody's energy? You want to stretch, shake it out? Okay, I see that people are okay. Okay, good. Oh, thank you, Jessica, for that question, because I was aware that I hadn't said anything about what the antidote is for the innocent. The innocent needs to take baby steps. The innocent gets very overwhelmed. So if you're looking at investing, for example, I mean, I had this come up recently because I'm switching advisors. It's so scary. My nervous system wanted to freeze around it. It could be as small as looking at your bank account. I like to encourage the innocent to just start with a mindful money practice of looking at your bank account every day. Or if you have your money connected to an app, to look at your app and just engage with those numbers. The numbers have an energy, and they're really beautiful and grounding when we can engage. So the warrior is the one we want to cultivate and have in charge of our decision making, because there is balance, there's discipline and discernment. So that, along with our spiritual connection, makes a very powerful relationship, and along with the creator artist who carries our vision and our purpose. This is a tool that I use with my clients. We track 3 months of income and expenses by category, and then look at the average and go down line by line and decide, is this what is aligned for me to spend in this category? You come up with a plan that feels really, really good and clear. And that clarity is just so healing for people. And then to create an ideal plan, you might increase the income. So this is where you get to imagine and vision specifically with your money. So if I had X income, how much would I spend in each category? And you might, at that point, increase what you're giving to charitable causes or back to your community or people you love. And then having clarity on any debt that you have and any savings that you have. Knowing your numbers is so powerful. I'll share a story with you. I came into an inheritance when my mother passed away in 2021. And it was challenging. I was very, very grateful. And that sense of responsibility that some people mentioned was very strong for me. It scared me. Even though I've been an investment specialist at Schwab and I've been a bookkeeper. I had a 15-year bookkeeping business. So I have the financial knowledge and information and background, and still that young part of me that was traumatized as a child and lived small to stay safe. That was a pattern for me. Wanted to freeze and and just not deal with it. And then another part of me like really wanted to be hands-on and do the best possible thing I could. I did call my warrior and get the information I needed and look at some different investment strategies. But at one point, someone suggested that I talk to my ancestors because this money had come from my grandmother. She and my grandfather had a furniture store for many years in Milwaukee. And they worked hard and they were savvy with their money. And my mom continued that tradition. She took really good care of it and it grew. So I did some writing, and the message that I got from my grandmother was, I worked hard for this. Take care of it. So that has been with me ever since, and I just go back to it regularly. Jesse Owens, Olympic athlete, says we all have dreams. In order to make dreams come into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. And it's so true. And that's the warrior. So while we're here on the warrior, I want to go into some wealth strategies. One that is really important is to set up automatic saving and start with your reserves so that you have emergency funding and any amount, if you need to start with $5 a month, do it. You're not going to miss it. And have the commitment not to pull anything out of that account. If you need to, if you come into a situation where you need extra money for something, talk to somebody before you pull from that reserve. You can also have pockets for specific categories. I recommend this too, like vacations, car repairs, if you want to buy a home, to start putting money aside for a down payment and set it up so it's going in automatically. I love Ally Bank. They're offering about 4.5% interest right now, and it's a good company with good values. And they also have buckets that you can set up so that when you have your automatic savings go there to the cloud, it's going to go into your buckets by whatever you have set up. So that's a really cool way to do it. You can also just track those buckets on a spreadsheet. Stock and real estate investing. So these investments have increased over time forever. They have ups and downs, and that's what's hard for people. In a down market, people freak out, not as much with real estate, but definitely with the stock market. So there are a lot of different strategies for investing in the stock market, but start someplace is my recommendation. And on the topic of decolonizing your wealth, I recommend researching companies that have environmental, social, and governance, ESG criteria. And you have to look pretty deep because, they can be lightly involved in those filters, or they can be seriously committed to those filters. So it's not necessarily what it looks like, I've learned. But starting somewhere in the market, and even if you buy one stock and just get comfortable with opening a brokerage account if you haven't done that before and investing in a stock. You can, in some places, I don't think they have a minimum. Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard are good places to do that. And then with real estate investing as well, over time, historically, it has appreciated. And if you have a vision for real estate investing, start taking some little steps. Get approved for a mortgage loan. That's some advice I've heard recently. You know, get your pre-approval. That starts the creation process too. Know how these earthly actions and our vision can work together. You might just start looking around at where you want to live or what you want to buy and just see what's out there and how much it costs and do some research. Commission income, setting up situations and agreements with business owners so that if you offer referrals, you're getting some commission. That's a beautiful way to get passive income and be of service to people who need that person's services. Giving yourself a raise is the easiest way to increase your income so that you have more to invest. And then decolonizing your wealth is a strategy, and it's also a way of life. It's a value. And I'm going to share some ways that you can do that and what I mean by it. So, what does it mean to decolonize your wealth? It's really a deep and wide subject, so I'm just going to give you a few ideas and resources, and I invite you to continue your study. You can start to change your mindset from one of me to one of we when it comes to our money. This is the indigenous way. We can research Native communities whose land we live on and see how we can support them with our time, energy, or money, which are all our assets, right? And there are some land trusts that some of the tribes, some of the communities have where you can contribute to make reparations for the land that you're living on, understanding that it doesn't belong to us, that it was stolen land. So one that I really love is the Sagaria Te Land Trust, and it's a movement to rematriate the land. And they invite people to pay a shumi, they call it a shumi land tax. I'm going to put this in the chat for you to make reparations and support their mission. Another way is to give to organizations that empower the communities they serve. So it's different from charity. It's more of giving to equalize the playing field and empower those communities. And I'm going to share with you some resources from Edgar Villanueva, who has created liberated capital for that very purpose. And we can intentionally support businesses owned by minoritized communities, Black-owned businesses, and other communities of color, and Indigenous communities. So consciously looking for those communities when we're wanting to purchase something, how can we support those communities with our finances to decolonize our wealth? We can make sure we're investing in companies that aren't perpetuating harm. I touched on that. We can do the deep work of decolonizing ourselves by examining our own biases. And Edgar Villanueva talks about that looks like bias for white people is the bias, the unconscious bias of superiority, and for many people of color of inferiority. So healing those internalized impressions of our own kind of social standing, as well as, you know, the deep work of social justice and understanding some of the imprints that we've gotten along the way toward other people, so that we're not othering people, so that we're seeing everyone as a human, a unique human. So let me just grab these links here for you. To identify the native land you occupy, the land trust I mentioned, and then liberated capital Doesn't look like it created a link there, so you might have to copy and paste that. Thank you all for your notes. I don't see the chat when I'm on the shared screen. Let me just take a quick look here. Important to decolonize. Hospicing modernity. Fantastic. So an easy way to make sure you get all the information in the chat is to copy it. Click the little 3 dots and save chat. Save chat, actually, not copy. Or you can take a picture with your phone. Thank you to everyone who put notes in here. Micro lending is another beautiful way, actually, to support communities, to empower communities that are pressed or challenged. Affiliate marketing be a source of commission income. Yes, it is. And thank you for putting Ally Bank in there. Let's see what else we have. Any questions here? Purchasing from businesses that donate profits to causes. Yes, I love that. Okay, beautiful. So this quote from Edgar, using money as medicine in the most powerful and direct form means we use it to heal the racial wealth gap. If it's used for sacred, life-giving, restorative purposes, it can be medicine. Money used as medicine can help us decolonize. So beautiful. He has a gorgeous journal that is called Money as Medicine, or the Medicine of Money. And I recommend that, as well as his book, Decolonizing Wealth, which I actually have not read yet, but his material on his website is beautiful and you can learn a lot there. So here's our beautiful final money archetype, the magician. I have this image of Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity, abundance, and beauty in Indian tradition. And I honor and give thanks to this incredible ancient tradition from India that is such a high spiritual frequency and is available to us. So with Lakshmi, she's honored in many Indian homes and often thought of as a member of the family. And with the deities, we can invite them into ourselves and experience ourselves as that frequency, or we can also worship them as that energy, that being, that more personal entity, and open up to that energy and receive that energy. So this part of connecting, we touched on it with the spiritual qualities, and that's the magician. When we stay in touch with our spiritual source, along with taking actions, then we can have that balance. And so the warrior needs to draw on the magician's intuition, grace, wisdom to make decisions and to have clarity on the actions. So let's all take a breath here. And I invite you to give yourself permission to see or imagine or feel what it would be like to grow your wealth in ways that feel juicy and alive. Can you feel that? Imagine feeling a deep sense of trust that the Divine Mother has your back, including your finances. What would it be like to have profound healing that goes much deeper than money? Imagine coming to peace with your past and experiencing your challenging patterns, money types, as allies that remind you to bring your warrior and magician into leadership, your strengths. I want to support you to feed your ultimate vision so you can grow your wealth and contribute to the world in powerful, aligned ways. How would that be for you? Just take a moment to take that in. If this sounds good to you, I have a special invitation for you to spend some time with me. I invite you to schedule a money transformation call to explore working with me one-to-one. On this call, you'll get to share where you are with your money and the exact changes that you want to make. I'll give you a clear picture of your path forward so that you can take your next aligned steps to fulfill your vision of prosperity in a joyful way. If you're open to the possibility of allowing a loving guide to hold a transformative frequency with you, I am here for you. You can schedule your time with me and know that you'll step into 2024 with greater clarity and confidence, knowing that you're taking care of this vital area of your life. If you're not sure that a one-to-one program is within reach, please jump on a call with me and we'll see if the Money Wisdom Circle membership is right for you. I know that some of you have been thinking about getting a new level of support around money for a while. So I invite you to give yourself the gift of a beautiful new relationship with money that will feed you for the rest of your days here on our precious planet. So I'm going to go ahead and give you that link in the chat. And schedule your session so you can open to greater ease, wealth, and fulfillment. So I'm going to now move into brain hacks. When I was talking about the brain earlier, I mentioned that we need to change our brain and our nervous system when it comes to money so that we can make the best decisions possible and feel good about our money and feel good about our relationship with money. And one of the tools that I use that is really powerful is authentic intentions. This is a way to start rewiring the way that we think. And one of my favorites is, I am 100% guided in all my endeavors. I'm 100% guided in all my endeavors. And so when we're coming up with authentic, I use the word authentic because it needs to land as true. And so if if the intention that is, I love my money or something like that is not something that you can really believe when you write it or say it, then you can add something like, I'm willing to love my money, or I'm learning how to love my money. Desire and belief. I started reading Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. And it's very sexist because it was written a long time ago. But the principles are so powerful. And he calls it The Secret. And there was a film that came out about The Secret. Well, this is where that all started, was with him, I think. And it's about having a desire. Now, many of us, if we've come from traumatized childhoods, probably shut down our desire because we ended up having a learned helplessness that what we wanted could never be given to us. So now that we are flowering, beautiful goddesses, we can claim our desires and cultivate our desires and then believe that they can come true. So we have beliefs, and you often hear about limiting beliefs. Well, if limiting beliefs work to cut us off from our abundance, then cultivating empowering beliefs can open us to abundance. So that combination of desire and belief is super powerful. And then heart coherence. Heart Math is an organization that has done a lot of studies around connecting the heart and the mind and the heart and the brain. And you can try this with me now, just placing your hand on your heart and breathing here is going to shift your nervous system. I'm sure many of you know about this. Literally changing the frequencies between the heart and the brain. The heart has very complex nerve composition, and it gives us more information to the brain than the brain gives to the heart. So if we really tune into the heart, breathe into the heart, and center in the heart, and bring the mind into the heart, then we can really shift some of those patterns. Another one that I didn't write here that I love is tapping, or emotional freedom technique. If you haven't tried that, I recommend looking it up on YouTube. And there are tons of heart coherence meditations on YouTube as well. And then finally, our life purpose, knowing what our purpose is here on earth, can help to inform our path. So I have a couple more quotes here for you. Let me know my own value, beauty, and worthiness without question. I recommend Tosha Silver's book, It's Not Your Money. It's my favorite spiritual book about money. It's just, it draws in a lot of the Eastern tradition. It's really beautiful. And then regarding purpose, Lynn Twist, Living a Committed Life. She also wrote The Soul of Money. A commitment larger than your own wants and needs lifts you out of the landscape of your circumstances and personal desires. It elevates you to a place where you find the strength and courage to generate your life out of possibility and generosity. And it's really something to aspire to. You know, we do need to meet our wants and needs. But at some point, they start to fade into the background when we're really focused on a purpose. And she's incredible. I saw her recently. She truly is driven by a greater purpose. She started the Pachamama organization. They go to the Amazon rainforest every year, and she has a charitable organization that supports the people there and preserving the rainforest. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Anybody has any questions?
Susan, first of all, I just want to thank you right before we open it up for Q&A, and thank you for opening it up for Q&A. I'm so delighted. It's so wonderful to have you here. And I think what I'll do is I'll actually turn off the recording for Q&A so women can feel like you can, just fully ask, whatever is on your heart and mind of Susan. And I just, can't recommend taking the time, recommend enough taking the time to take Susan up on her offer. It's not that often that she opens up her schedule for, basically this one-on-one time with her. She's a wonderful money mentor. I highly recommend her, and know women and couples who have. And just having this call with her will be transformative. And she does also work with couples. So if you want to elevate with a partner, that is something that you can talk about and step into 2024 in a very different way, creating in a very different way in 2024. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a moment to thank you all for being here. Susan, thank you for being here. And if you're watching this recording later, all of the links and resources and books that Susan recommended, and everything that she kind of gave to us today will be listed right underneath the recording. And for those of you that are chiming in live, we will email these resources out to you as well, just in case you missed any. So thank you so much, Susan. Blessings, blessings.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for hosting me. And I highly recommend Jessica's beautiful Women's Light Leaders Circles. her business mastery circles, business sister mind circles are just such an incredible community, and her wisdom has helped me so much in my messaging.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. We'll go ahead and complete for now and open it up for Q&A.